Now it's time to talk about the motor and sensory areas of the brain. We're going to be focusing on the motor cortex and the somatosensory cortex. Let's start off talking about the motor cortex. You might remember from our first video on the cerebral cortex, where we talked about the lobes and we did our labeling, that the primary motor cortex is located in the frontal lobes of the brain, right before, kind of the back of the frontal lobe, right before this fissure. Here's the parietal lobe back here in blue. So here's our primary motor cortex. The job of the motor cortex is to direct our voluntary movements, such as walking, talking, picking up a pen, writing. Literally any voluntary movement you make is a product of the functions of your motor cortex. Different areas of the cortex control different areas of the body. So right here on the right-hand side, we're looking at a slice of the motor cortex. And you can see there's a slice of the motor cortex devoted to each part of your body. You're going to also notice that there are larger parts of the motor cortex devoted to the parts of the body that you move the most. So look at how large the face is and the lips. Think about how much we talk, right? Our tongue. Think about how much we use our tongue in the process of both talking and eating and swallowing. These are functions, these are motor functions we do often, okay? So a larger part of the motor cortex is devoted to the parts of the body that we move most. Parts of the body we move the least don't have as much of the surface area of the motor cortex devoted to them. But each of these different components, or each of these different places on the motor cortex, directs that part of the body. So the hand is directed by, any movements of the hand are directed by this part of the motor cortex, the lips, etc. The somatosensory cortex is very similar, but this part of the cortex, which is located right at the front of the parietal lobe, is responsible for touch sensation, specifically pain, temperature, and pressure. It also helps us locate the source of a sensation. So the somatosensory cortex is why, for example, if I were to close my eyes and you pinch me on my forearm, I would know that you're pinching me on my forearm as opposed to, I don't know, my calf. Similar to the motor cortex is the sensory cortex. The sensory cortex also is mapped to correspond with different parts of the body. You'll notice, again, parts of the body that we feel with or sense touch sensation with the most have larger areas of the sensory cortex devoted to them. This is showing you what the brain sees. So this is just kind of showing you a representation of how the motor cortex and the somatosensory cortexes are mapped. We talked about the fact that areas of the body we feel with most or move the most have larger areas of the cortex. So these goofy little figures called the homunculus are just kind of representations of what we would look like if our bodies kind of had the same proportions as these two cortices.